concept for multiple transformations of linear functions. So what we mean by multiple transformations is that you're going to have two or more of either translation, rotation, or reflection across the y-axis. Okay, you're going to have one line in one place, you're going to have a second line in another place, and there have been some transformations that moved that line to its new location. Okay, that changed that line, that transformed it in some way. All right, and your job is going to be to kind of work backwards and figure out what sequence and what transformations happened to get that line to move. All right, and when you're doing this, it's best to keep in mind that a translation is really the only way to move the line. Right, it's the only way that moves the line around, but it keeps the slope the same. Okay, a rotation will change the slope, but it'll keep one point on the line the same. Okay, so it might be rotating, around this point to change the slope, but that point will stay the same. Okay, and then the last one, reflection across the y-axis, changes the slope but in a specific way. Okay, if it's a positive slope, it becomes negative. If it's a negative slope, it becomes positive. But either way, the y-intercept stays the same. Okay, so keep those in mind when you're looking at these equations. Okay, so our original lines are going to be the red line. Okay, and they're going to get moved. They will have been undergone transformations to become the green line. Okay, so again, the things you want to remember: if it's not in the same place, on the y-axis, it's probably been translated. Okay, if the slope is different but not just a negative of the original, it must have been rotated. Okay, and if the slope is the same but it's just a negative of what it was, then it's probably been reflected. Okay, so if I look at these two, all right, I can see this first one starts at f of x. F of x is equal to x, because my slope is 1, and that's it. There's no y-intercept. Okay, so if I look at this, my y-intercept is now -4, -4. It's 4 lower than my original. Okay, so one of the things I could have done is I could have had a translation down 4. Okay, that could have been my first step. All right, if I did that, my line would still have the same slope. It would just have this as my y-intercept, so it would look something like that. Okay. Then I'm going to look at my green line and I'm going to say, well, the slope on that is now, this line is now f of x is equal to, f of x is equal to a negative x, okay, because I am going down and to the right, down and to the right, so negative x, so my slope is still 1, but now it's negative, and -4. Okay, so I have my -4, that's my translation. The negative slope, well, if it's a negative slope, it's probably just a reflection. Okay, it actually could have been a rotation. Okay, I could say that this was a rotation, a whole 180 degrees, but in this case, 90 degrees. Okay, but in this case, it probably makes more sense that it would just be a reflection. Okay, so I have my translation down 4, and then a reflection across y-axis. Y-axis. Okay. All right. So that's the first one. Let's look at another one. here our original line, and it always helps to start off with your original line. Our original line has +2 for the y-intercept, and the slope is up 1 over 2. So the slope is going to be 1 over 2, or y equals 1/2 x plus 2. Okay. All right. We can look at it, and if it works better for your mind, you can, instead of trying to figure out what the translations are to get to this last one, you can first find your equation for that last one. And if I look at this one, it is a -1 now, and it is a -1 over 2, or -1/2, and it actually looks like I'm probably going under similar transformations. Okay, I could have, and a lot of times the order doesn't matter. Okay, in this case I could have reflected first. Reflected across the y-axis, and then translated down 3. That would have got me there. That would have been a good transformation to get to this new line. All right, let's look at least one more. We'll look at this one. Okay. So for this one, our first line is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So my y-intercept is +8, and it comes down 2 over 1. So it's going to be 2 over 1 for my slope. Y equals, or f of x equals 2x plus 8. Okay. My second line is going to go through the same point. So that tells me that there's no rotation, or sorry, there's no translation, okay, because my y-intercept doesn't change. Okay, no translation. My slope is now up 1 over 2, so my slope is now 1/2 x plus 8. Okay. So this one could be done with just one rotation. I could have just rotated around this point at x, or x is 0, y is 8. Okay, and that would have been just one transformation that would get me there. I could have also done a partial rotation and then a reflection, or a reflection and then a rotation. But in this case, I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to say that it's a rotation. Oops, should be using blue. Rotation around the point 0, 8, and that's it. Okay, I rotated my point, or my line, around that point, and I got to my new line. All right. I think we'll go ahead and leave this one, and I'll end it there.